The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink TV, its sponsors, or partners.
Well, hello. Welcome to Real Estate with Brenda Kay. I'm Brenda Kay, and this is the show where we talk about everything real estate. And today we've got not only an interesting topic to talk about, got a great guest, and we have a really good story that goes along with this that just happened to us. Rod, Atlantic Canadian owner of Buyer's Choice, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, Brenda.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And we're going to focus most today on pre-inspection, but tell us a little bit about Buyer's Choice.
Well, the company was started a number of years ago, back in 2007, by a realtor, actually, Bill Redfern, and he, as a realtor, noticed that there was kind of a real gap in the market in terms of qualified home inspectors, and I think he probably determined that there was more real estate transactions that were kind of falling through as a result of poor quality inspections. And so he saw a niche in the market, and he developed a franchise model based on qualifying inspectors, developing good quality inspectors and a good quality training program, and eventually turned it into a company, a multinational company. Well, a company that's in Canada and US anyway.
Yeah, and you know, you brought up a really interesting point. He was a realtor.
A realtor, absolutely, yeah.
So he actually knew the pitfalls and how not false information, either lack of information or somebody not understanding something and over information, you know what I mean?
Exactly. I think some, you know, in our industry, like any industry, some people can go overboard, and they can be tenacious, and in an effort to try to do good, sometimes we just go too far. So so really, he saw that, and in an effort to try to streamline that, he developed a franchise model, and here I am as a result.
Yeah.
So.
And we're going to talk a little bit about his training methods, which again were critical to the point where he was a realtor. He really understood the niches where this company had to fit and how it had to fill what he saw as a void in the marketplace.
Sure.
Let's just reiterate a little bit about home inspectors, because they're not licensed and they're not regulated, are they?
Not in Atlantic Canada, no. They are licensed and regulated in most other parts of Canada and some parts of the U.S., but not here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So in Western Canada or Central Canada, are they licensed like a realtor with an association?
Absolutely. Yep. They have to have a license, and they have to follow a criteria for qualification, carrying liability insurance, that type of thing, and it's quite stringent. We'd love to have that here as well. We're working towards that.
Yeah.
So. And
Buyer's Choice, I know that the one time when you and I talked, Buyer's Choice is really pushing for that type of licensing and regulation, because you're not afraid of it.
No. Anytime you have legislation that quantifies or qualifies who can be doing the work, that's a good thing. That protects the buyer and the seller. That protects the public. So of course we want that level playing field for everybody out there.
Yeah, to be. And I know as a realtor, being out there, the different levels of service that I do see, not saying that one is really bad or one is really good, but if there was more continuity. Yeah,
and that's one of the good things about the Buyer's Choice franchise is there is continuity from one end of Canada to the other. The training is the same for the inspectors in Atlantic Canada as it is for the people out west or the people in the United States. So it's a very high level of practical training versus field training, and very consistent.
Yeah, and background is important for your franchisees, what they did, if someone, you know.
Yeah, like if obviously if they have a background in construction or real estate or anything to do, you know, home renovations, that's a good thing. That's a huge advantage to a home inspector, knowing what he's looking at. It's not absolutely necessary, but the learning curve to become an inspector, if they have that training, is certainly a lot shorter. So when as the regional owner, that's what I'm looking for. When I'm looking to put a new franchisee or a new business into a new area, a new territory, I'm looking for somebody that ideally has that background experience. Somebody who's in the trades or in home construction, or is just generally familiar with that whole process. Yeah, it certainly makes things easier.
Tell us a little bit about the training that's provided.
Well, there's a whole series of training, but in a nutshell, we have a program that's taught by Carson Dunlop. It's a fairly well-established course within the industry, and it's a 10-module course. It's a home study course that the inspector will start off with first, and each module is related to, for example, there's one module on roofing and shingles, and another module on foundations, and another module on furnaces and electrical. And they'll work through these modules on their own with the support of their regional owner, and they'll take the courses online, so there's study exams that they'll take online. And then once they've passed that component, which can take anywhere from 3 to 5 months, depending on the individual, then we send them down to our training center in Florida, our boot camp, we call it. And again, there's another full week of just general study, reevaluating their home study, looking at the franchise model and us as a North American company. And then the last week is dealt specifically with doing home inspections. So they're taught to do home inspections in the field, and they're critiqued constantly on those inspections. Yeah. By the time they come back from training, they have a real good idea of what's required of them. They learn how to use their software. They learn how to use their inspection reports. They learn how to deal with the public and to run a business. And then they come back and they move into what's called a mentorship program, where myself and other franchise owners in the neighborhood will continue to help them build their business.
So your mentorship program, I actually had a first-hand view of that, because I've had clients that hire the buyer's choice, okay, and they've had somebody maybe from St. John or Newfoundland or somewhere tagging along with them and watching.
Yes, exactly, and that's what it's done. We will put a new trained business owner, franchise owner, with an existing franchise owner, somebody who's been in business for a number of years, and will make sure that he gets I guess a transition period to break into the industry, yeah, and learn how it's done firsthand by, yeah, somebody who's been in business already.
And I think one of the key points there to be made is not only are they going to learn how to do the home inspection, but they're going to learn some really good communication skills, yes, aren't they?
Dealing with people, respecting the fact that you're in somebody, yeah, else's home, because this isn't your home. It's a, yeah, it's a seller's home, and the buyer may be there, the realtor may be there. There may be a whole group of people there, and you, yeah, you really do have to be respectful of the environment you're in, and learn to deal with people. And sometimes the training, any kind of training you get, doesn't really teach you how to deal with people. And, yeah, of course, that's just synonymous, yeah, with any business ownership, yeah, is trying to deal with people, yeah, right?
And communication, I find communication is key in the inspection process, because it's all in how you communicate, whether it's going to alert, alarm, or advise. And absolutely, that's what I tell people. It's absolutely not to alert or alarm. No, it's to advise.
Yeah, we're there to take a snapshot of the home and really let all the parties know what the state of the house is. And we really have to keep in mind that in most cases this is a used home. It's been lived in. There's no perfect home. All homes have some things wrong with them. Yeah. It's really just an issue of what are the really important things, yeah, that we have to deal with, and what are the minor things.
We're going to keep that thought. When we come, okay, back, we're going to talk about pre-inspections, buyer's choice, big advocate of those. We'll be right back with Rod, buyer's choice.
Trusting other people to carefully handle all of your worldly possessions, memories, or your company's property is a lot of trust to give. At Premier Van Lines, the art of moving makes sure each move is a masterpiece. At Mike's Country Kitchens, we know your new kitchen isn't just another project. It's the heart of your home. Allow our experienced designers to create your ultimate dream kitchen. See why MCK has become Nova Scotia's most successful kitchen manufacturer.
When you make the important decision to buy or sell a home, I am committed to going the extra mile. From city to suburbs, first to retirement home, your guide every step of the way. BrendaK.ca. Welcome back to Real Estate with Brenda K. Today we have on the show Rod from Buyer's Choice. We're talking about home inspections. More specifically, we're talking about pre-inspections. So we're going to jump right into pre-inspections. And I really like this analogy that you used with me when we first met, that pre-inspection is like forechecking in hockey. It's not relying so... See, I wrote that down. I really like that analogy. So, yeah, and I'm a huge advocate of pre-inspections, and we're going to tell a little story, but tell us about your pre-inspection program.
Well, what the pre-inspection program does is it's kind of a niche market for, I guess you could say, the seller. It allows them to kind get out in front of any problems that might exist in their existing home, because as I said, there's no perfect home. So it really lets the seller really get a snapshot of what a potential buyer might see when they come to the home, or things that the realtor might point out when they first come on board with the seller, and things that he might need to deal with in order to get maximum value, maximum sale price for his home. So usually the realtor will recommend a company, and of course we always hope it's our company, that, and we'll come in and we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll take that snapshot. We'll treat it like a very informal inspection, but instead of being there to say, look, this is what's wrong, we'll be there to say, these are the issues that you have to deal with. And we really leave it up to the realtor and the home seller to decide how they want to, which items they want to fix, so that when the house is finally listed for sale, the advantage for the seller is that they can now maximize on their ability to maintain their sale price.
And I do it too also, number one, peace of mind. There's nothing worse than when you get the offer, you're pumped, you're excited, now you're going to go out and shop for your next home, and you're just like the nail biting because you've got the inspection that you've got to go through. And that being said, it also lets the sellers see their home through the eyes of a buyer's inspector, because the buyers are still going to bring an inspector.
Yeah, and the beauty is that the sale isn't held up. If I'm a buyer, I don't necessarily want to have to go hire an inspector, first of all, but even if I do, if I'm willing to pay that money and do that, I recognize that I'm probably going to find some problems, and now I have to go out and get prices from contractors, and that's a bit of a hassle for me. From my perspective as a buyer, I'm going to probably focus on the house that's been pre-inspected. I'm going to get to see the report. I know what the problems were, and I know how the owner dealt with them. So to me, that's a simpler purchase. It's an easier house to make an offer on. So it's quite common, or sorry, it's a new thing, and it just gives a little bit of an edge to the seller and a bit of an advantage to the buyer.
And I know from, like I said, from our point of view, buyers generally will do an inspection anyways, because they consider it prejudicial, when it is. But going into, and we had an encounter this week where, like I said, I have a pre-inspection program. I do it for my clients. I do it for peace of mind. I don't do it to provide the buyer the inspection report. I do it so that there's no surprises. And what happened this week with a buyer's choice is that the report was phenomenal. It's got pictures, and we're going to talk a little bit about your book here when we hold it up. But the buyers came to us with their inspection report, no pictures, said that something needed to be fixed. And we then produced a picture that showed it wasn't broken, and and that could have turned out to be a real, I want this off, or I want this price, I want this money back, and it calmed the waters. Everybody worked together. We were like, oh, okay, their inspector didn't get that far down, so
And it's the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. The picture says it all. There's no need for anybody to debate or get hung up or argue over what a picture will already tell us. So our guys on average will take well over 100 photographs. You may not always see that in the report, because it would just be an encyclopedia for a report, but they'll take a lot of pictures because it helps them be more detailed in their inspection, so that when they are writing their inspection later on, they've got a lot of good photographs to use as a resource to write a detailed report.
And what I do from the pre-inspection point of view, like you said, I sit down with my clients and I say, what do we want to fix? What do we not want to fix? Because like every house, it's going to have a few issues. It is, some of them are 50, 55 years old, So it's not the inspector's objective to quote codes, is it?
No, we're not building code inspectors. We're not electrical engineers or electrical inspectors or bylaw enforcement officers. That's not our role. Our training is good training. It's good quality training, but it's minimal. We don't have that level of expertise to start quoting verbatim the building code. Now we can provide that information if asked, but generally, like I said, our role is to take a snapshot of the home, focus on our training, and let the customer know. Let the buyer and the seller and everybody involved know if there's some serious issues that should be addressed, whether they're safety issues or whether they're long-term plans that can be health issues, things like that. So
And I know as a busy realtor, I've encountered so many. I mean, I've had inspection reports that have mentioned fallen down trees in the backyard on property that doesn't even belong to my clients.
Those would not be. Those would be beyond our scope, so beyond the spectrum of our inspections.
What I tell my clients, and what I like about the gentleman I work with Buyer's Choice, is that it is to identify deficiencies, defects in the home that affect the quality, the enjoyment, the safety of the home.
Yeah.
So if you have this pre-inspection, you're going to know. I mean, what if you have some mold in your attic? Who crawls up in their attic and looks in the back corner?
Exactly, and that's just it. Like, there's an investment being made in a property, and you can't automatically assume that because we find something wrong that the owner knew about it and was trying to hide it. We can't make that silly assumption. I mean, a lot of times owners are looking for good information too, and they don't know always what's going on in their home. Like you said, the attic. Who goes up in the attic?
I don't crawl, right?
Who pulls the wash machine away from the wall until it's time to move? And there might be a little bit of mold growing back there, but that's not the end of the world. That doesn't mean that the house can't be sold and that the house is full of mold. That's a silly assumption, right?
So, and it also, like we ran into the other day, the home had vermiculite.
Vermiculite, yeah.
We already had it tested.
Yeah, not all vermiculite is unsafe.
No, and there was no asbestos.
Most of it is safe, yes.
Yeah, but the buyer's inspector, and he was good, but he was the same thing. He said, you've got vermiculite, that should be tested. And of course, the buyer's thinking, I have asbestos. Done, tested, fine.
Most of our guys are trained to identify what type of material is in the attic. And really, again, that comes down to good training, is knowing what you're looking at. And if they're familiar with what they're looking at and what they're seeing, and they've had some training, there's no need to raise alarm bells.
Yeah.
We're not there to, we're not there to slow the process or hamper the process. We're there to try to keep everybody
Enhance.
and smooth the process out as much as possible, and ensure that the transaction.
Smooth the waters. Absolutely.
But make sure everybody knows what kind of a home they're buying and what's being sold.
We're going to keep that thought when we come back, because I've got a couple last questions and I really want to show the book you give out.
Great.
We'll be back. Real Estate with Brenda Kay. We'll see you in a minute.
Trusting other people to carefully handle all of your worldly possessions, memories, or your company's property is a lot of trust to give. At Premier Van Lines, the art of moving makes sure each move is a masterpiece. At Mike's Country Kitchens, we know your new kitchen isn't just another project. It's the heart of your home. Allow our experienced designers to create your ultimate dream kitchen. See why MCK has become Nova Scotia's most successful kitchen manufacturer.
When you make the important decision to buy or sell a home, I am committed to going the extra mile. From city to suburbs, first to retirement home, your guide every step of the way. BrendaKay.ca.
Thanks for coming back. Real Estate with Brenda Kay, and today we have Rod on.
Brenda,
thank you, from Buyer's Choice. We're talking about pre-inspections, talking a little bit about inspections in general too, and I, like your role as the regional man, you don't do inspections, you improve tools, techniques, information. I really like that about
my job is really to support them, and I guess you could say the liaison between corporate, like the franchise corporation of Buyer's Choice Home Inspections, and the business owners on, I guess, on the ground. We have franchise offices all across Atlantic Canada, in my region, and as I said before, we're right across Canada into the United States as well, and we're even in some other parts of Australia. And my role is to really just to keep supporting them as much as possible, to try to help them improve their business, to try to
ongoing training,
do things like this that will help improve our image as a company, and for sure training. We meet as a group 4 times a year, and we bring in guest speakers, and we bring in people with cutting edge technology like thermal imaging cameras. We talk about wet inspections, which is looking at fireplace installations, the chimneys, things like that. So basically just making sure that our guys are always up on top of what's new construction technologies, new techniques, so that they're always on top of their game.
Yeah. One of the other things that impresses me with your company is that the owners have invested in information that is good for my clients. So anything value added, product or service to my clients, that's what I'm going to recommend. Like this book, it's phenomenal. Can we see this? It's awesome. and it's not just a book of fluff. A home maintenance schedule, the general cost guide to home improvement. You've got about rate on gas in here, which a lot of people don't understand.
No.
Certain parts of Nova Scotia. The pre-sale home inspection, wet certificate. There's a lot of information there that you're going to leave with your client.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of times they'll have that before the inspection, so they have a chance to read through it, and you know, they've got a good idea of why we're there and what we're there to do. The cost guide is a nice touch.
I like that one.
Yeah. What it really does is, if we are in the home, we're doing an inspection, and for example, the guys notice that a window, maybe in a small room window, needs to be replaced. The buyer and the seller and the realtor can quickly go through the guide and quickly look at what a window replacement would cost. And it would just be a very, you know, it'd be close. It wouldn't be accurate, but at least it would help them continue to move forward, and they'd have a rough idea what it's going to cost.
Well, or under the pre-inspection, there's the guide right there that says, okay, it's going to cost me $250 to fix that window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this takes some of the guesswork and the legwork out of it for the buyer and the seller.
Yeah. We're going to just finish off quickly on pre-inspection. The deficiency list, not only is it provided, the owner chooses what he's going to do, and then you guys go back again, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. We want to eventually make that report available to the buyer. So of course the owner will get to decide. He'll have the complete list, and he'll get to decide. You know, an owner might be happy with I don't know, something as simple as maybe a doorknob that needs to be replaced, but they probably wouldn't be happy with that window that needs to be replaced.
Exactly.
So the owner will probably fix the window, and then our report will show that the window was a problem but has been replaced at the seller's discretion. And they'll see that the doorknob was broken, but it was a small item. And most buyers aren't going to make a big deal about something like that, right? So, of course, they get to see the whole thing.
And like we said, there's items that every home, every resale home is going to have some issues.
Yes.
It's a resale home.
It's a used house.
It's a used house.
It's not
exactly,
Even new houses aren't perfect. They have problems too.
Yeah. Well, and you know, well, that's true. And but I sold my house, and we've talked about this often on the show this season, is because I've just been through this whole process again too. You know, my plugs in my kitchen were not GFI, and the buyer's inspector brought that up. I'm not changing all the plugs. My house is 22 years old. It wasn't code.
No, you're not required to.
I can't add all those plugs and rewiring.
Nor would you be required to. No.
No.
You're not required to bring a house up to code just because you decide to sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, defects, deficiencies.
And like I said too, Brenda, I mean, it's not uncommon for us to do an inspection on a brand new home and find the exact same problem. The plugs on the counter were not GFI plugs. And you know, a house gets built quickly. There's a general contractor and tons of trades, and a lot of times something gets missed, and it's nobody's fault. It just happens. But if we catch it, that's good for the buyer.
That's a really good point, because one of your inspectors, just because it's new construction doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean don't get an inspection just because it's new construction. One of your guys went up into one, and one of the trades missed putting insulation in the attic. So, well, what we're going to move on to Ask the Expert. Feel free to maybe give me some tips here, but our Ask the Expert came from a young couple I was working with on the weekend, and I thought I'd bring this up on the show because what they said to me was, the pre-approval, is that a guarantee that I'm going to get a mortgage? And you know what? Unfortunately, no. There's no guarantee. There's no 100%. During the pre-approval, what the lender's going to do is they're going to do a calculation of your earnings and your debt, and likely it's going to lead to a mortgage, but there may be situations that arise. And you know, it's best to understand what they're going to look for, and it's really easy to do a little bit of homework yourself. When you go on a lot of sites now, you can do mortgage calculator. If you go on brendak.ca, you find a house you like, go on the mortgage calculator. So what you do is you kind of get an idea for what the payments are going to be and guesstimate the taxes and maybe the heating cost, and you're going to say, you know, does that exceed your gross debt ratio? That's going to be 32%. And then how is that of your total monthly gross income? And then add in everything else. Add your credit cards, add your car payments, add these things. And I'm not saying this replaces a professional, but this is going to give you an idea. And another thing is there's all kinds of sites. Do a credit check on yourself. The bank may use Equifax or one of the other ones, but then CMHC may use another one, may red flag something from a student loan, something that was paid but they don't have it on record. So it absolutely does not replace the professional, but it gives you an idea, and you're not going to be declined and disappointed, and that's one of the big things. And the pre-approval, you know, the live deal is still going to go in, but you'll feel comfortable, you've done it yourself, then go see your mortgage specialist. Brenda Shafford from RBC was our expert on this one. So like I said, if they use a different credit check, you might find something. So be prepared. Here's what Brenda said that you should have. You want a letter of employment. You want to have your notice of assessment from CRA. Get a list of all your debts. If you remember anything in the past, and did I pay or not pay, look it up, find that, and have a source of your down payment and proof of your closing costs. So you've done a little bit of homework yourself. Everybody's on the internet. You can kind of get an idea of what you can afford. So there's my answer on Ask the Expert for pre-approval guarantee. You can find more on brendak.ca. You can send me questions to brendak@eastlink.ca. And of course, I want to thank my guest,
Thank you, Brenda. Thanks for inviting me. Yes.
No, my pleasure. Yeah. Pre-inspection real estate, any questions? Expert on the website, brendak.ca. We'll see you next week on Real Estate with Brenda Kay.